book of First Chronicles, chapter 7, verse 1. So there were these dudes called Issachar. The dudes were called Issachar. And they had 4 sons named Tola, Pua, Jashub, and Shimron. Pretty cool fam. The dudes were called Issachar. Okay, looking at the right side, King James Version. The sons of Issachar were Tola, Pua, Jashub, and Shimron. That makes much more sense. All right. And Tola had some rad sons, Uzai, Raphiah, Jeriel, Jamai, Gypsum, and Shemuel. These dudes were the leaders of their fam, straight up representing their dad, Tola. They were total legends, legit warriors. And the crew had a massive squad of 22,600 strong during the days of David. And Uzai had a son named Izriah, and Izriah had 5 sons, Michael, Obadiah, Joel, Ishiah. All of them were influential leaders. And there were groups of soldiers, dudes from different families, consisting of 36,000 warriors. They were all ready to fight, bro. The reason why they had so many soldiers is because they had a lot of wives and sons, you know. And their bros and all the fams of Issachar were straight up strong dudes. Counted as an impressive 87,000 when you check out their family tree. Here are the dudes from the tribe of Benjamin: Bela, Becher, and Jadiel. Just 3 of them. So Bela had 5 sons: Esbon, Uzai, Uziel, Jeremoth, and Eri. These dudes were total strong men, and they were the leaders of their families. In total, there were 22,034 of them, according to their family history. And Becher had a bunch of sons. Their names are Samira, Joash, Eleazar, Elionai, Omri, Jeremoth, Abiah, Anathoth, and Alameth. So yeah, these dudes were all Becher's sons. And there were like 20,200 total legends from their different families, leading the way and being all epic and stuff. Jadiel had some sons too, like Bilhan, who had sons named Jeush, Benjamin, Ehud, Chenana, Zethan, Tharshish, and Ahishahar. Verse 11. Like there were a total of 17,200 super strong and brave soldiers, bro. They were the sons of Jediel, coming from like the most respected families, ready to rock and roll in the battlefield. There were also Shupim and Hupim, the kids of and Hushim, the children of Aher. Squad of Naphtali was made up of Jaziel, Guni, Jezer, and Shalom, the kids of Bilhah. The guys from Manasseh were Ashriel, who was born to his wife, and Machir, who was born to his concubine. The Amorites. Machir would later become the father of Gilead. I bet she was an Amorites concubine. So like Machir married the sister of Hupim and Shupim, you know, her name was Makkah. Oh, and there was also this other dude named Zelophehad who had daughters. So Makkah, Machir's wife, had a baby boy and named him Perish. She also had another son and named him Sherish. Perish's kids were Ulam and Rechem. And Ulam had a son named Bedan. These dudes were the sons of Gilead, who was the son of Machir, who was the son of Manasseh. And like his sister, Hamaleketh gave birth to Ishad, Abiezer, and Mahalah, you know. The squad of Shemida was lit with Aham, Shechem, Likai, and Aniam. The boys from Ephraim were Shethelah, with his son Bered, and then his son Tahath, and also his son Alada, and even another son, Tahath. So Zabad had a son named Shuthelah, and Shuthelah had 2 sons named Ezer and Eliab. These dudes from Gath messed with them and killed them because they tried to steal their livestock. And even their dad was really sad for a long time, and his brothers came to console him. And when he hooked up with his wife, she got pregnant and had a baby boy. He named him Beriah because his family was going through some hard times. This dude named Rapha was his son. And then there's Resheph, Tela, and Tahan. They were all sons in that order. Ladan, his kid, Amuhad, his bro Elishama, his homie. Not his son, but Jehoshua, his son. So they had places like Bethel with its surrounding towns, Naran to the east, Gezer to the west, along with their own towns. They also had Shechem and its towns, all the way to Gaza and its towns. So the children of Manasseh, they lived in cool places like Bet-Shan and its towns, Tanakh and its towns, Megiddo and its towns, and Dor and its towns. These were the spots where the children of Joseph, Israel's son, chilled out. The squad from Asher include Imnah, Ishua, Ishuai, Beriah, and Sarah, their awesome sister. The bros of Beriah were Heber and Malchiel, who's the OG father of Bezarpheth. And Heber had kids named Japhlet, Shomer, Hotham, and their sister Shua. And then Japhet had 3 sons, Pasak, Bimhi, and Asbahath. These are the kids of Japhlet. And the bros of Shamer were Ahai, Roga, Jehuba, and Aram. And Helam's bro had some cool kids, Zophah, Imnah, Shelesh, and Amal. The squad of Zophath, Shua, Harnifer, Shual, Barai, and Imra. Brahad, Shema, Shilshah, Ithran, and Berer were the homies. And Jether had 3 sons, Jephunneh, Pispa, and Ara. And Ulah's kids were named Ara, Haniel, and Raziah. These dudes were the kids of Asher, the big shots of their dad's crew. They were top-notch warriors, leading the pack. The total count of these brave soldiers ready for battle was 26,000 strong. 1 Chronicles chapter 8. And then Benjamin had his firstborn, Bela. Then came Ashbel, and lastly, Ahara. Noha was the cool 4th dude, and Rapha was the epic 5th guy. So Bela had these cool sons, Adar, Gira, and Abihu, Adar could also be called Ar, just an FYI. So like there's this dude, Abishua, another dude, Naaman, and Ahoah. And there were also Gira, Shephufam, and Huram. These dudes were the sons of Ehud. They were like the big shots who led the families representing the peeps living in Geba. And they relocated them to Manahath. Naaman, Ahia, and Gira were replaced by Uzzah and Ahihud. And Shaharim had kids in Moab after he kicked them out. Husham and Bara were his wives. And Hodesh had children with his wife, including Jobab, Zabiah, Misha, and Malcolm. And dude, there were these totally awesome guys named Jeuz, Shekiah, and Ramah. They were like the sons of this really important dude. And they became the leaders of their tribes. It was a big deal, And Husham became the father of Abitu and Elpal. The dudes from Elpal were Eber, Misham, and Shemed. They were the ones who went all out and consulted Ono, Lod, and all the cities around Beriah and Shema were like the OG leaders of the Ajalon tribe. They straight up expelled the people from Gath like true bosses. And Ahio, Shashak, and Jeremoth found, and Zebediah, and Arad, and Adar, and Michael, and Isphah, and Joah, the homies of Beriah, and Zebs, and Meshi, and Hezi, and Hebs. So there were these dudes named Ishmaiah, Josiah, Jobab, and they were the sons of Elpal. And Jakim, Zikri, and Zabdi were part of the crew. And Elaniah, Silthiah, and Eliel were also there. And there was also Adiah, Bariah, and Shimrath, sons of Shimhi, and Ispan, and Heber, and Eliel. And like Abdon, Zikri, and Hanan for sure. And like Hananiah was there, along with Elam, and Anthoth Ijah, and Ephidiah, and Penuel, who were the homies of Shashak. And like Shamsharai, Shahariah, and Athaliah were there also. And there were like these dudes named Jeresiah, Eliah, and Zikri, were like the sons of Jeroham. These were like the OG dads, following in their ancestors' footsteps, the true leaders. They repped Jerusalem like nobody else. So like this guy lived in Gibeon, he was totally known as the father of Gibeon. And his wife's name was Maacah, Well, by the way, he also called Jehiel. No biggie. Abdon was his oldest son, followed by Zur, Kish, Baal, and Nadab. And like there was Geder and Ahio, Zachar, Zachar also could be called Zechariah, just FYI. And Mikloth had a son named Shemiah, and they also lived in Jerusalem alongside their brothers. Ner was the dad of Kish. Kish was the dad of Saul, and Saul was the dad of Jonathan, Malchishua, Abinadab, and Eshbaal. And Jonathan's kid was Meribal, who then had a son named Micah. Micah had 4 sons, Pithon, Melech, Teriah, and Ahaz. And Ahaz became the dad of Jehodah, and Jehodah became the dad of Elameth, and Osmapheth, and Zimri. And Zimri became the dad of Mosa. Mosa had a child named Beniah, who had a son named Rapha. After Rapha came Elisah and Azel. Azel had 6 sons with some pretty cool names: Azrikam, Bakiru, Ishmael, Shariah, Obadiah, and Hanan. Yep, all of them were Azel's babies. Eshek's brother had 3 sons: Ulam the eldest, Jehush the second, and Eliphalet the third. The dudes called Ulam had some seriously brave and skilled archers, bros. They had a huge fam with lots of sons, grandsons, and like a whopping 150 of them. All these dudes were part of Benjamin's tribe. 1 Chronicles chapter 9. So like all the people of Israel were like organized according to their family history. And bro, the whole story is like documented in the books of the kings of Israel and Judah. And oh man, they got taken away to Babylon because they messed up. Like they went against God's rules. So basically, the original peeps who lived in their own territories in their cities were the Israelites, the priests, and the Levites, and the Nethinims. So in Jerusalem, you have the squad repping Judah, Benjamin, Ephraim, and Manasseh, living their best lives. Uthai, Amminadab's son, who is the descendant of Omri, Imri, and Bani, belongs to the crew of Pharez, who is from the fam of Judah. And of the Shilonites, Asaiah, the oldest sibling, in his squad. And among Zerah's kids were Juel and their crew, totaling 690. And among the cool dudes from the tribe of Benjamin were Salu, the son of Mashallum, the son of Hodaviah, the son of Hassanua, and Ibniah, Jehoram's son, Elah, Uzi's son, Mikri's grandson, Mashallum, Shephatiah's son, Reel's grandson, great-grandson rather, and Ibnijah's great-great-grandson. And their squad for Reels, like a total of 956. Like all these guys were legit leaders of the OG fam in their fam crib. Among the priests were Jediah, Jehorib, and Jachin. And Azariah, whose other name was Sariah, was the leader of God's house. He was the son of Hilkiah, who was the son of Mashallum, who was the son of Zadok, who was the son of Mario, who was the son of Hittu. Yo, check out these ancestry chains. Adiah, son of Jehoram, son of Pashur, son of Malchijah, and Messiah, son of Adiel, son of Jazera, son of Mashallum, the son of Mishaleth, the son of Emer. And their fellow brothers, leaders of their family households, totaled 1,760 members. They were extremely skilled individuals for carrying out the work of serving in the house of God. And the Levites were represented by Shemaiah, who was the son of Hashub, the son of Azrikam, and the son of Hashabiah, who belonged to the Merari clan. And these were cool dudes: Bakor, Haresh, Galal, and Mathaniah. He was the son of Micah, who was the son of Zikri, who was the son of Asaph. And Obadiah, the son of Shemaiah, the son of Galal, the son of Jatuthan, and Berechiah, the son of Asa, the son of Elkanah, who lived in the villages of the Netophathites. And the guys at the door were Shallum, Akub, Talmud, Ahiman, and their homies. Shallum was the head honcho. Those who used to hang out at the gate, King's Gate on the east side, they were the official guards as part of Levi's crew. So Shallum, the son of Kori, son of Abisaph, the son of Korah, and his squad, from his fam squad, the Korahites, were in charge of doing the important work at the tabernacle gates. The dads were also in charge of the Lord's army and keeping things in check at the entrance. Phinehas, Eleazar's son, used to be the boss of them back in the day. The Lord was totally on his side. Zechariah, the son of Meshelemiah, was the doorkeeper of the tabernacle, where everyone gathered. There were a total of 212 peeps handpicked to be gatekeepers. They were sorted and recorded based on their family history in their hometowns. And both David and Samuel the seer made them official in their positions. So these peeps and their fam were in charge of guarding the entrances of the crib of the Lord, aka the tabernacle, keeping it safe and secure. The guards were spread out in 4 directions: east, west, north, and south. And their homies who lived in their hood were supposed to link up with them every 7 days. So these Levites, like the top 4 gatekeepers, were totally doing their jobs, making sure everything was in order, and taking care of all the cool rooms and money vaults in God's house. They were totally trusted with all this responsibility, you know. And they chilled out all around the house of God because it was their duty, and they were responsible for opening it every morning. And some of them were responsible for keeping track of the cool stuff in the church. Their job was to bring them in and out with accountability. They had to make sure everything was counted during the process. They had to bring them in and take them out with precision. And like some of them were chosen to keep an eye on the fancy stuff in the sanctuary, you know, like the cool vessels and all the instruments. They were responsible for making sure everything was in top shape. The fine flour, the wine, the oil, the frankincense, and obviously the spices. You know, just keeping things on point, nothing too crazy. And like a few of the priests, kids totally whipped up this lit, spicy ointment. So Mattathiah, one of the Levites, who was the oldest son of Shallum, the Korahite, had the responsibility of taking care of all the stuff that was cooked up in the pans. Like he was in charge of making sure everything was done right and all. Trust. And some of their homies from the sons of the Kohathites were in charge of the lit bread, making it fresh every time it was the Sabbath. And these were the lit performers, the top dads of the Levites, who stayed in their cool rooms and vibed freely because they were all about that grind day and night. Like they were totally dedicated to their work, you know. These OG Levite bosses were the top dogs for all eternity. They were posted up in Jerusalem, living their best lives. And in Gibeon, there was this cool dude named Jehiel, who was like the big boss of Gibeon. Oh, and his wife's name was Makkah, in case you were wondering. Then Abdon, his oldest son, followed Zur, Kish, Baal, Ner, and Nadab. And man, there was Gedor, Ahio, Zechariah, and Mikloth. Mikloth had a child named Shemeam, and they all lived together with their buddies in Jerusalem, right across from each other. Ner had a kid named Kish, and then had a son named Saul, and Saul had some children too. Jonathan, did you all just say this already? Melchishua, Abinadab, and Eshbal. And Jonathan's son was named Meribal, who then became the father of Micah. Micah had Pithon, Melech, Teriah, and Ahaz as his sons. And Ahaz became the dad of Jarrah, and Jarrah became the dad of Elameth, Asmepheth, and Zimri. And Zimri became the dad of Mosa. And Mosa had a son named Beniah. Raphiah was his son, followed by Elisha and Azel. So Azel had 6 sons, like pretty cool names. Asrikam, Bokiru, Ishmael, Shariah, Obadiah, and Hanan, like those were the sons of Azel. Well, please put these put these words rather in the comment section. This is the word of the Lord. Follow, like, and subscribe. Hit that arrow at the bottom of the screen and share this video. Shall we pray? Now, Father, as we've gone through these chapters, this is 9 chapters of lists of names and names and names, and sometimes it's repeating itself, just like it did here in chapter 9. And what comes to me is the words of the late Apostle Paul that said that we're not to get caught up into endless genealogies. And that's what we see here in chapters 1 through 9, endless genealogies. Now, this all may have made sense and was something important under the old covenant for people that had been scattered as a result of the Israelite 10 tribes to the north being scattered abroad, the quote unquote 10 lost tribes. And then, of course, the Babylonian captivity for the southern kingdom. So perhaps at that particular time, all of this was necessary to re-identify who was with the nation, to bring about some sense of identity for a people that had lost their identity for those years of captivity. But now under this new covenant, it's like the apostle mentioned, these are just endless genealogies that really have no particular bearing on our salvation or our walk with you. And so let that be a lesson to us, especially as we look on our pedigree and our heritage and our legacy. Like Jesus said, he can take stones and raise up sons and daughters of Abraham. Don't think that just because you're sons and daughters of Abraham that you have some kind of special blessing, because now the axe is laid to the roots, and every tree that doesn't bear fruit in you is cast into the fire to be burnt. So that's what I get out of this, Father, and I thank you for that lesson. And we pray that you would help us to always keep our identity, our sense of self-worth in you, our esteem in you. Yes, we thank God for all of our heritage and legacy, but it means nothing without you. Bless us now to be grateful and thankful for that throughout this day. We ask in Jesus' mighty name. And everybody said, thank God, amen. And put in the comment section, this is the word of the Lord. And hopefully you've been able to stick and stay through all of these names. I mean, this is 9 chapters we've read thus far of just names in genealogy. And again, you have to understand that, you know, you're dealing with people that have come back from captivity, and this was to give them some sense of identity. Be, for example, like with the black slaves. Black slaves, for the most part, those of us that have that lineage, some of us are able to trace back our family lines, but the majority of people are not. And so that would mean a lot to all of us to be able to not translate, but get information on our family lines going back hundreds of years and possibly thousands of years. So that's why this meant so much to these individuals. But again, that has no bearing on your salvation. It's just endless genealogies. All right, listen, my friends, as we get ready to depart, don't forget to go to bishopelijahhankerson.com and make sure you sign up to our mailing list. We'll need your name in there, of course, and your contact information, which is your number and your email address. Do that today, bishopelijahhankerson.com. It gives you the opportunity to put a remark. Make sure you put the name of your pastor, the name of your church, the correct postal mailing address of your church, and the birth date of your pastor. And I will be sending out a personalized birthday card to your pastor that has been prayed over and anointed, believing God that God will continue to bless that ministry in a great way. Make sure you do that right now. Go to bishopelijahhankerson.com. And if you've not done it already, hit that subscribe button. Hit that follow button right now. Make sure you do it. God bless.